I trust you.
All right, bro. So,
Keys in my pocket.
so if you want to just like introduce yourself, however you would,
Like
in a meeting
all right,
or
yeah.
whatever.
I'm John. I'm an addict.
Awesome. So, this is just about the foundation of who you are. So, like, who were you before addiction took hold? Describe that version of yourself honestly.
Who was I before? Um, I was a pretty happy kid. I was really involved in sports. I excelled at hockey. Um, you know, I joked around a lot in school for sure. Kind of like jokester of the class, stuff like that. And then once high school came around, I definitely was the one having all the parties. Um, my parents kind of allowed me to be turn into that role because they were partying at the same time too. Uh, and I never saw anything wrong with it. It was kind of normal, whether it was a bad time or a good time. There was always a party on the weekend. I was always looking forward to that. I was never really in the present. And then I guess grade 8, a little bit moving forward, like girls became a huge part of my life. Everything was about the next one. How to get involved with the next one, whatever it may be. But I was so focused on what other people thought about me from that point moving forward, basically until I started working on myself.
When did substances shift from something you used to something that became a problem?
I'm not really like that's a tough question because I started smoking weed when I was in grade 11, and it was funny because I was usually late for school, but weed became a reason for me to wake up earlier so I could smoke weed so I could get to school on time. So it was kind of like back and forth with that. When I was in grade 10, I did like I drank, overdrank, got drunk, and took my parents' car out for a joyride, and I ended up like writing off my dad's truck. So obviously that was a problem. My decision making wasn't like great, and that was like to go see a girl, right? Like I wanted to go see a girl, and then I took my buddy out for a spin, and we ended up crashing the car. So that wasn't great. So I'd probably say like pretty young, like grade 10, like they were a problem, but whereas like I couldn't, and I kind of look at like when was I going to the bathroom at family events, like to like my DOC was coke. So when did that become a problem? I'd probably say around first year of university was when I was like I couldn't go through a Christmas dinner without getting a bump or something like that. That was when my DOC became like very prevalent.
Gotcha, man. This kind of ties into the last one. So, what was the first sign your life was no longer in your control?
Probably my I went out to a friend's birthday party, and I don't remember this, but I woke up to them like waking me up on a tennis court, and I was only wearing like a bathrobe, and I got my mom was picking me up from the party, and I was going into her vehicle, and then my friend Jackie's like, "Oh, John, that's my bathrobe." So I had to like undress from the bathrobe, and like I was butt naked getting into my mom's vehicle, like on this girl's property. And then, I was in and out of a sleep, like on the way home. And when I got home, I passed out upstairs, and my mom grabbed my bag, went through my bag, and she's like, "We need to have a talk." And I was like, "Hey, like after I sleep." But I went down and had a conversation with my mom and dad, and they're like, "You're either going to rehab or you're not a part of this family." So I think that was kind of like the point where I was like, "Whoa, like I need to figure something out." You know what I mean? Like I can't control this. Because that wasn't the person I wanted to be.
Yeah. And did you go to rehab that first time?
Yeah, so I went to rehab that first time. I went to a place called Greenstone out in Ontario. I was sober for 15 months, and then I relapsed.
Okay. What did addiction turn you into that you never expected you'd become?
Ooh. I heard in this song, it's like, it's funny how we always turn into the things that we're running from. And, like everything, like just, not, I always wanted to be like a man, like a proud man, because that's what my dad was. There, I wanted to be able to be, dependable, accountable, responsible. I wanted to be trusted. All those things, and it was literally, I turned into everything that was the opposite of that. I turned into someone who's really weak. I had no sense of purpose, which was tough for me. I turned into like I was 250 pounds. I was overweight. Like I was pear-shaped, and like I prided myself on being an athlete my whole life. So, I turned into everything that I never thought I would be.
What do you think people misunderstand most about you during your addiction?
See, like, this one's a tough one for me, because I could say, like, I didn't mean to hurt them. I didn't mean to, be so selfish. I didn't mean to, whatever it may be, but, like, really I did, So I like in my head, there were so many times where I'd be like, oh, this is the last time, or oh, I'm only gonna do this amount, or and I was fully convinced that was going to be the case until I get the first hit, and then it's like nothing else matters but getting the next one. And it's hard for me to explain that to someone unless they get it, like unless they are an addict and have been through it. And it's like, I can turn pretty demonic very quickly if I don't get that first hit, so, or that next one. I guess like that's the weird part for me, was like I was almost back to my normal self without it, and then as soon as I get the first one, it's like all bets are off. So I don't know how much I could say, like what they misunderstood about it, but I think the hard part was going back and forth between like actually meaning in my heart, like I don't want to do this, but then doing it, So, but now looking back at it, it's kind of like, how can you tell someone you don't want to do something and then continually do it, right? Like that's insanity. So, if for me, like not wanting to do it, I actually had to make that change, right? And it was tough, but I didn't want to live in that pain anymore, man. Like it was living hell.
What part of your life or identity did addiction steal first?
Probably like my mind. And when I say that, I mean, the ability to think of others and their perspective. I was always actually I don't know, that one's tough. Probably like my joy, I would say, like my joy for everything. Like I couldn't enjoy life without drugs. Like I couldn't even go play like pond hockey or anything without like drugs, or pickup hockey without drugs. I couldn't, music sounded better with drugs. Driving was better with drugs. Like there was nothing that I could do that would satisfy me unless I had, substance in my system. So it just took away like my joy for living, really. I would say was like the first thing that it took.
Is there any moment that still haunts you when you think about your lowest point in addiction?
I mean, there's lots. Um, like I've done lots of work on these. I've done so much work on these, like 10 worst memories, stuff like that. Um, there's definitely a couple. I would say, I just did work with my counselor on this, but it was I stole one of my mom's like gold chains from her like stash of jewelry, I guess, and you know one of the things like that just kills me that I was at that low of a point. Like it's like I stole from my mom, man. And then kind of tying into that, my dad my dad committed suicide on November 5th of 2024. And the last time I saw him I was high. So that one kind of that was hard to get over, or process for a while. um that was really difficult for me, but you know I've come to terms just with the fact that kind of it is what it is. And I know that that's a crazy saying, and I'm not like diminishing how big some things could be for other people, but for me like acceptance rules all, like in recovery. If I'm able to accept what I've done, and process it a little differently in my head from the original thought that I had of it being all like that's the worst thing that could ever happen, I'll never forgive myself. It's like, okay, well, like, trust me, it can get a lot worse. And there was multiple times where it did get a lot worse for me. But coming to terms with it and just accepting it and being like, it is what it is. Like, I'm accepting myself for it. I'm going to forgive myself. That's been the most help, like working through those things. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, and people who are going to see this, I think that it's going to impact the most is, people who are scared to get into recovery, not sure about it,
Mm-hmm.
and families,
Yeah.
who don't know how to handle their addict.
Yeah.
So I think that it's going to be quite eye-opening.
Yeah, I should just for the record state, like, that part about my mom's necklace, I haven't.
Do you want me to not?
No, leave it in. Like, leave all of this in. Okay. I haven't actually made amends with her yet for that. And I was gonna leave it out because, like, I'm not even sure that she knows that I took it. Right? So it's kind of like pulling the wool over my own eyes and her own eyes. Like, oh, well, it's fine then if nobody knows. But, that's kind of like not my decision that I get to make, right? Like, it's something that I should be. And part of it, too, is, like, I have a relationship with my mom. Like, she called me on the way here and I told her, like, what I was doing. Like, this is cool shit for me. Like, I'm honored, right? But I need to tell her at some point, right? Because I still think about it. Like, when you say that's one of your worst memories, I'm sure I have other ones, but I've worked through them. Yeah. Like, I've made amends, but this one I haven't, right? I'm like, oh, it's unknown, so we'll just leave it that way. Like, that's good. Like, that's not good for me. And, I've been sober now for almost a year, but it's not something that I've addressed with her yet. So by no means am I saying, like, if there's something bad that you've done that you got to go out right away and make amends for it. It's like, now I'm coming to the point where I have a relationship with my mother and she's starting to trust me again. So it's something that I'm okay addressing now, because, whatever comes of it needs to happen in order for our relationship to take the next step. Right. So that's just where I'm at with that one. Yeah.
This is more getting into, like, the turning point for you.
Okay.
What was the moment you realized that you just can't live like this anymore?
Well, like, there was a lot, but, there was so many, man. I was joking with a friend, like, the other week, and I call them pajama vacations, like, kind of demean to the fact, but, like, detox, right? Because they strip you of your clothes, put you in pajamas, and it was like I was losing count of my pajama vacations. And although it's not funny, but now I look back on it, it's like I don't want any more pajama vacations. So like all of those, I never, it was never like slapped me across the face. Like, I need to change. Like, you know, I said I need to change so many times, but for me, you know, it was my dad passing, right? So my dad committed suicide. He jumped in front of an 18 wheeler. He was going through early onset dementia. And I wasn't there. Like, I wasn't there for my mom, my sister, or him for, you know, the last year of that, right? And I remember my mom calling me and, you know, saying like dad's missing. I'm like, oh, what do you mean missing? He's like, well, he left his phone at home and the truck's not here. And this was, he had already attempted once. And he wasn't supposed to be driving. So I kind of had an idea of like what was going on. I didn't know for sure, but I remember her calling me and be like, your father's dead. Like, he jumped in front of a vehicle. And I remember like sitting there in my car, and the crazy part about it was is I just picked up, like I had just gone to the dealer, and I, you know, just went and got some booze, and you know, I drank and I used for about 3 or 4 days after that, and I didn't go home to support my mom and sister, just because I couldn't, you know, see, it's everything's about me, right? Like so selfish, self-centered. And then it got to the point where I had to go to my dad's wake, and you know, a bunch of his friends were coming and all that stuff. So I just made a decision where I was kind of like, well, mom and Kate, they don't have any you know, men in their life anymore. Like, there's no man there, right? So I, you know, came to kind of grips with that, and I went to the wake and all this stuff. And then you know, I'd been on the waiting list for Thorpe for probably about 60 days at this point. And after my dad's wake, my mom was like, okay, there's also this warrant out for your arrest. Like, everyone knows about it. It was posted in Facebook groups with like fucking 30,000 followers and stuff. And I was in such a bad spot, but I thought I could get out of it. Like, again, I was like, well, just, you know, I'll call my friend. He'll get me a flight. And, you know, when I called, he's like, dude, are you dumb? He's like, yeah, you're going to walk into the airport. They're going to arrest you. He's like, you got to call. So I called the police and I reported myself, and I asked what the deal is. And they're like, well, he's not going to charge you. I was like, what? He's like, he's not going to charge you. I was like, so what does that mean? Can I get on a flight? He's like, you're good to go, man. So that night, my mom flew me out to Edmonton, and through the grace of God, like, man, I had so many people help me before I got into the Thorpe. I think it was like 20 days, maybe even a month. But that's sorry, it was a little long-winded, but that's what kind of got me into the idea of like, I can't live this way anymore. I need to be there for my family. So that was the big thing for me.
So what fear almost stopped you from getting help?
It's funny, we just talked about this one, right? It was definitely, for me, it was fear of, I was in a relationship at the time, and it was fear of not being with her anymore. Fear of what she would do when I left to even go to my dad's funeral. Like, it was such a toxic relationship, and, you know, I played a huge part in that, don't get me wrong. You know, but it was definitely fear of living without her. It was living without my enabler, you know. I couldn't fathom going on without this person in my life. And, you know, that was the main factor of not continuing to change, you know. And yeah, that hampered me for so long. I just kept going back. And you know, I heard this, and you know, it kind of helped me was you know, sometimes when you truly love someone, the best thing you can do is make sure that you never see them again. And I took that to heart, right? Like, her mom even said that to me once. She was like, if you really love my daughter, you'll never see her again. And I didn't understand why until I actually separated myself, you know, changed my phone number, changed provinces, and got help, where I was like, yeah, like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, if I could actually like show like work through this, like, the best way I could love her and myself is to make sure that we never come in contact again.
Well, you kind of answered this already, but
Yeah.
maybe if you have
Sure.
anything else to add, what finally pushed you through that fear?
That fear, yeah, that was my dad passing, and then when I got out to Edmonton, so I didn't even tell her that I was leaving because, like, we got into some sort of, I don't even know, some argument, some bullshit that really in the scheme of things didn't matter, but it felt like the end of the world at the time. When I got out here, I was in CA before out here. So the guy that picked me up from the airport was a guy from my CA meetings, and then I got put up with another guy who I met in the CA meetings. So guy that I met in the CA meetings dropped me off at his sponsor's house, which was another friend that I had from the CA meetings. Um, and they suggested to me, like, you need to stop talking to this girl, man. Like, it's a suggestion, but like, you're not gonna make it. So, I was all pissed off at her, and I was like, if you cared, you'd fly out to Edmonton to see me, like, blah blah blah. And then I only had Wi-Fi on my phone. I didn't even have cellular at the time, and I took a bus, like two buses. It was like a 2-hour trip to the Atlanta Club downtown Edmonton. And when I got there, I looked on my phone, and she was like, if you book it for me, I'll come. And then I was sitting in that meeting. I was like, what am I doing, man? Like, if I'm going to change, I need to change. And I literally just said, hey, in order for me to fully heal, I can't have any communication with you. That was the last message that we have between each other, like, period. So it was literally just kind of me being like, am I actually fucking doing it this time? Or am I going to have like these stipulations, because the first time I went in, like, and got out, I'm like, oh, I'm sober. I got everyone's trust back right away. I was still hanging around the same people. I was still, a couple girlfriends at a time. Like, but I was sober, so it didn't matter, right? But this time I was like, hey, I'm gonna take the suggestions these people are giving, because like, I don't want to be in that place ever again.
What was the hardest truth you had to face early in your recovery?
Yeah, that I couldn't be with that person anymore. Like, straight up. There was no way, and I was justifying. I'm like, well, what if she gets sober? She gets in the program, like, but then she might be fucking people in the program, so I'm not gonna be able to think like there's no way that I could be with this person ever again. And that was the hardest part of getting into recovery. Literally another person. It had nothing to do with me getting sober. It had nothing to do with what am I going to do when I get out of here? What am I going to tell people? Like, I've already been through that. Like, telling people you don't drink, it's not that big of a deal. Telling people you don't do drugs, if they have an issue with that, like, kind of fuck them. But it was that there was no way that I could ever speak to this person again, or be in a relationship, or, hook up with them again. Like, I just had to be okay with that. That was the hardest truth that I had to go through. Yeah.
What belief about yourself did you have to break apart to move forward?
Um, there is quite a few. I say is because one of the big ones is like I am worthy of a good life. I've done some pretty um uh I've done some things that go against my morals and values of that I carry with myself today, that make me think I'm a bad person, you know, and that make me think that I'm not worthy. So, you know, I think the biggest one for me is like, you know, like telling myself I am worthy, or at least acting in a way that I can look back on and be like, I am worthy. You know what I mean? So a lot of it for me is like, affirmations are great, but I need to also act in a way on a daily basis that will reinforce those ideas of like, I am worthy, you know, like I am a good person. I am honest, you know, I can't, there's no way that I can be like, oh, yeah, I'm an honest person, and, you know, tell you I have three hands. Like that doesn't line up, right? Is another thing is, you know, I always used to say like, oh, like I'm so grateful, I'm so thankful, but like those are action words to me. Like those are adjectives, right? I can't tell you that Adjectives or verbs? Adjectives.
Probably could be both.
Regardless, actual words. Like, I can't say I'm thankful or grateful and then, go behind your back and lie to you or be like, oh, Kelvin's a piece of shit. Like, it doesn't work that way, right? I need to show you that I'm grateful.
What was the biggest lie addiction told you that you don't believe anymore?
That I can't get better, probably. That I can't change, it's such a it's such a cunning, baffling, powerful, right? Like the power it had over me, I would tell myself I'm gonna change, and then I just wouldn't. Like I changed for 2 days. I wouldn't pick up for 2 days, and then, the third day I go and pick up, and just that pattern of never changing and telling myself that I would. I was so broken, and it hurt so much to even think about all the times that I'd lied or stole or all these things that I couldn't change is what it would tell me, right? Just that devil on my shoulder always like, you can't change, just go get more, right? That was probably the biggest lie that it told me, was that I can't change.
Who challenged you in a way that you needed, even if you didn't like it at the time, in recovery?
Mm-hmm. There's actually quite a few, like my sponsor was huge. The biggest thing for me is relationships and that kind of avenue, known as process addictions, which I never really looked at, right? But the big one that I heard before I even went to Thorpe was like, no relationships for a year. I was like, holy shit, for a year? Like, that's wild. And then when I was at Thorpe, I was part of a group, and it was an abstinence thing. And since the time I was 12, like I had masturbated like I didn't go more than 48 hours probably, and I was 29 when I went into Thorpe. So like that's a long time, right? So doing an abstinence, that was definitely a huge challenge for me, but I got through it, right? And for me, I find validation from other people. I could never validate myself, right? And that instant dopamine hit that I got from that was, that would take me through whether I was sad, whether I couldn't get to sleep, whether, I had a bad day, whatever it was, I couldn't get through it with things that I actually liked. Like now I read a book or whatever it may be, these healthier ways to get a dopamine hit, right? And that was a huge challenge for me, man, like huge challenge for me. So I would say, like, I guess the question was who, but for me, like what were some of the bigger challenges was definitely like, not engaging in like sexual conversations or, like flirting too heavily with girls, and like figuring out what levels I could get to by challenging myself that way, because that's kind of what took me out the last time was a relationship. It was a relationship with an unhealthy person who was using around me when she knew I was sober, right? So although I like rolled up the bill, whatever it may have you, if I hadn't put myself in that situation because of a relationship, who knows what could have happened.
What does spirituality mean to you now that it didn't mean before?
I think spirituality for me is I'm in my most spiritual self when I'm open-minded. I find it very hard for me to experience anything, or having spiritual experiences when I'm closed-minded. And I catch myself being closed-minded sometimes, like. And when I catch myself and I'm like, okay, well, just be more open-minded to everything. Like it's not being open-minded to one thing, but I'm just open-minded, without it crossing my boundaries, obviously. When I'm being open-minded, that's when, I'm able to experience spirituality, right? I don't have like a set belief in everything, right? I'm okay being accepting to whatever is out there, and then taking from it what works for me, and then leaving the rest. It's kind of like going to a meeting. Like, not everyone that speaks I'm going to be like, oh yeah, like fuck yeah, love that. But stuff that does stick with me, I can take it and I'm okay with that, right? And I can leave the rest. It's being open-minded to what is out there. Like, for me, that's my experience.
Was there a clear moment where you felt something spiritual wake up inside of you, or was it gradual?
I've been lucky enough to be invited to a couple sweats, like sweat lodges, and I remember the first one that I went to. I got out the second or third round, and I remember like looking out at like the trees and sky, and it literally took me back to when I was younger and I was golfing with my dad. Like, just immediate transportation, like right back to that moment. And that was the first time that I remember in such a long time where I was like, whoa, like there is, like, for me, something more out there than the feeling of getting high. And then that grew. Like, one of my dad's good buddies, he passed away, and like it was a beautiful snowfall. I was living downtown Toronto at the time. It was a beautiful snowfall, and like snowflakes were like this big, and I took it as like his way of like saying like, it's all good, man, like, so yeah, there's so many little experiences that I have that I never would imagine being like, oh, thanks God, but being open to the idea that there is something allows me to have those moments, right? If I'm closed off to the idea of there being something more, or something trying to communicate with me or lean me in a certain direction, then there's no way that I would be able to be lucky enough to have those, right? So just being okay with the idea that there might be something, that makes life a lot easier for me.
And just so you know, like, this is a spiritual experience for me,
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Sweet.
Is there anything that's changed for you internally that you can't fully explain in logical terms since getting into recovery?
Internally? Yeah, I mean, probably the open-mindedness thing. That's a big one. That's the open-mindedness, the acceptance, and then all these things that I'm working on now, it comes with that, right? Like discipline. Bro, discipline is crazy, because anyone can be motivated. Like, motivation's, once a week I hear some sick pump up song. I'm like, I'm gonna go lift some weights for an hour and a half because I'm jacked up, right? But discipline comes in when it's like, I just worked a 12-hour day, and it's like the last thing in the world I want to do is go to the gym, but like, fuck it, who else is? Like there's not many people doing that, right? So that gives me like peace of mind knowing like not everyone's doing this shit, right? So I find beauty in like the discipline, in the mundane things that people are like, I don't want to do it. It's like, oh, well, I will do it then. I think that's really changed for me internally. Like, someone who's really close to me, they said, choose your hard, right? And for me, that spoke volumes, because it's like, I don't give a shit what anyone says. It's hard to be an addict. Like, it's hard manipulating every friend that I got that'll DM me back on Instagram to get a couple bucks here and there, right? Like, it's hard lying to the people that I love. Like, it's hard telling this girl, like, I didn't steal coke out of her purse, but I stole coke out of her purse. Like, that's hard. That sucks. That's not fun, right? But it's also hard getting sober. That's not easy, looking back at all these things I've done and being completely honest about them, and showing up daily when I don't want to, crying in front of other people because I'm reading these letters to them in like my primary group. Like, that's fucking hard. It's hard sitting there hearing in a letter from my family about my sister being like, I saw all this stuff that you did to mom and dad. I wish you were dead instead. Like, sometimes I wish like John was dead because it would be easier. Like, that's hard. That shit's hard to hear. But, I just was at a point where I didn't want to like live in that personal hell anymore and like wonder it like what if one day, like, you know, if I even had a couple of years left in addiction, I didn't want to be like laying in a hospital bed being like, well, what if I did get sober? What if I didn't like tell those lies anymore? You know, I didn't want to have that. I wanted to like try, like actually try, you know, and listen to what these people are telling me, because for a long time I didn't have friends that like really cared about me, you know, and now I got people that are in my life that like remember the anniversary of my dad's death and I didn't even remember it, like stuff like that, like way beyond my expectations of what I would want from somebody else in a friend, and that's what I surround myself with now, right? So like it's just, yeah, I'm lucky. I'm really lucky.
What does a higher power look or feel like to you today?
I was sitting down. I live in sober living at Hope House in Strathcona, right? That's what? Hope in Strathcona. Hope in Strathcona. And we were sitting down this morning just over a coffee, and, you know, he shared that like his higher power is in the rooms with the group of people, and, you know, I agree too. I think, you know, for me, my higher power is everywhere. My higher powers could be anything at any time. It's that open-mindedness, right? Like sometimes my higher power can come through, you know, somebody sharing at a meeting. Like that's exactly what I need to hear at this time. Like, thanks God, you know, and when I don't put a name on it or like have a set idea of what it is, it's a lot easier for me to be accepting of whatever it is whenever I need it. So my higher power for me is a lot of the times when I'm saying prayer, like every night, without a doubt, I say thanks God for today. Like that's just easy for me. It's an easy prayer. And then like some mornings when I'm having bad time, like I'll just be like, God, like please help me, give me the strength to get through this day if you're willing, you know. And that for me relieves a lot of the pressure of like facing things on my own. You know, prayer can be like a scary thing, and I know it is, but you know, at the start of my recovery, when I was really struggling before I got into Thorpe, you know, I was saying the Serenity prayer like 80 times a day, because all I could think about in my head was this girl with another guy. That's all I could think about. And it's like and that's hard to deal with, but you know, saying the Serenity prayer over and over and over and over and over and over again, like it helped me get through. And I didn't have like any conception of God or what it could be, but just knowing that it's not me and like I can give whatever I'm going through up to someone else is so powerful now, so powerful to me. And just being open to the idea that I don't have to go through it on my own, right? That's like my conception of a higher power. So whatever it is that allows me to not be alone in something is a higher power to me.
That's a good answer. What part of yourself came back to life in recovery?
I'd probably say like now my confidence, which is you know, it's not like confidence in the normal like what you would think confidence to normally be, but the confidence just to be myself around other people and not think twice about what they're thinking about me, I think is a big thing. And then definitely my inner child, like that where I'll be driving or doing something at work and I'll just smile and laugh at myself for no reason. Just the joy of like being again, I think is, you know, that's come back to me, and like I don't know how else to explain it, but it's just like the most beautiful thing that I've experienced for sure.
How did you learn to trust your own judgment again?
Yeah, it's a tough one. That was a tough one for me. It's basically in that discipline thing, like just doing the things that I know, like doing the next right thing, right? That's one of the big things is I actually have a cool story about this. I think I shared this with you before, but right before I got into Thorpe, when I was living in Edmonton, I saw this lady. She was cleaning her car off like in the winter in the snow, and she's like all dressed up, really like, you know, and I looked and I was like, I should go help her clean off her car. And then the next thought was like, oh, but she's gonna think I'm a creep, like for going up and helping her. And then I just went into went into an alleyway. And that sticks with me because me now as a person, like that's my intuition. Like that's the first thought. Like that's a good thought to have. But I couldn't even trust my first thought because I was so damaged. Right? So for me it's about doing things like that, like the next right thing. Like, oh, I should probably go put my cart back at Home Depot or Walmart after I'm done with it, not just leave it in the fucking middle of the parking lot, right? Like that's doing the next right thing. And as I continually do the next right thing, I'm able to trust what my next thought is going to be. That's never to say like I'm not going to check over my shoulder before I turn into the next lane because that's what feels good, right? Like there's still like a little bit of a balancing act, but being able to trust that I have the right idea just comes from, I think, repetition of doing the right thing, right?
What emotion was the hardest to sit with once you were clean?
Loneliness is hard. Loneliness is really hard. It's still hard, right? Like for me it's easy to, or not for me it's easy to, but it would be easy to download a dating app and go hook up with someone, right? Like that's that's not an easy thing to do, but in theory you could do that easily, right? And just knowing that that's like that same empty feeling will come up at the end of it, whether it be someone I know or someone I don't know too, right? Like if I scoop back into that old inventory, like I'll still end up with the same emptiness inside, right? So just being okay with being lonely and understanding that it's a process to love myself and understand that I can validate myself and I am worthy, right? Like never thought I'd hear myself say these things, but that was the hardest one, was definitely loneliness. It sucked and it sucks, but there's such like a cool feeling to be able to kind of have that self-worth back, that validation of myself. Like I'm okay with myself, right? It takes a lot of work for sure, but being willing to get to that point is huge. And that's all it starts with, right? It's just like, what, I don't want to be in a toxic relationship anymore. I don't want to be abused. I don't want to be in a situation where I'm only happy when the person that I'm with is happy and completely lose my sense of purpose and sense of self again, right? I never want to be in that situation again, because that's the worst feeling in the world. So yeah, probably dealing with the loneliness was the most difficult for me.
How did recovery change the way you treat people? And how did it change the way you let people treat you?
Yeah, okay. So how did it change the way I treat people? Well, I mean, I try not to, I don't look at women as like a quick lay anymore, or whatever have you, the appropriate wording for that is. I try to find depth in conversation with people, and see it for what it is. I was a big people pleaser, so a big thing for me, I had issues with, if I was in a conversation with someone and I didn't feel comfortable, or like I felt like it wasn't adding value, I would still sit there and like have the conversation with them. Or if they said something that like irked me, or I could notice passive aggressiveness in their voice, I wouldn't say anything because I was afraid to upset them. And now this took me so much work, but now being able to be like, okay, who is that person for who they are, right? Like somebody can only meet me where they're at. Like I'm gonna have to come to meet them wherever they're at. So wherever they're at, am I okay with where they're at and meeting them there? Or am I just gonna have to find someone else to talk to, like without being rude, but setting a boundary with myself, with who I associate with. Like even at meetings, sometimes it's like I hear how people, go about their lives or whatever it may be, and I'm just not okay being around that person, right? Or, setting a boundary, at work, like I'm very easily like could be taken advantage of it, where I go above and beyond, and that goes against like my morals or values, right? Because I feel obligated to. So like being able to set a boundary, you know, with myself as well with other people, where like I'm not comfortable doing that. Like, oh, but it's like, no, like I'm not going to do that, right? Or like, no, I'm not going to talk about that, or like, hey man, like that was pretty passive aggressive of you. Like, when you said this, if you just told me it straight up and asked me to change, I'm more than okay with that. So next time, can you word it better? Or like, being direct in my communication is huge. Just because like I come from such a long line of manipulating people, and I can kind of spot it, hear it out, but not being like confrontational about it either. Like having an open mind and an open line of communication, being like, hey, did you think of like this, or like is this what you meant by that? And not being confrontational about it, but just being able to have that communication and feel okay with myself having that communication. I think that's been like one of the biggest parts for me is, feeling valuable enough to myself to understand what other people are saying when they speak to me, and making sure that other people understand me when I speak to them, what I mean by what I'm communicating.
What relationship surprised you the most, and how it shifted after you took on recovery?
All of them. Like all of the friends and people I have in my life, like my my sister and I, we've been close since we were young, and I've done so much like just shit to her. Like she was there when I crashed my parents' car drunk. I left her at the house. Like I was never a good brother. I was always like, nobody ever messed around with her, like oh, John's your big brother type deal. But that's all I thought I had to be, when really she just wanted to see me do well for myself, right? So I'd probably say like with my sister, we're like best friends now. She'll call me twice a day. She sends me pictures of Bear, which is her dog, like all the time. Like a year ago, like a year ago, she still had me blocked, like on her phone. Like I couldn't get a hold of her if I wanted to. Like for a whole year, pretty much, or 9 months, she had me blocked, man. Like that's fucking rough. Having a family member blocked who like means a lot to you, but obviously at the time I wasn't showing it. Yeah, that was so probably my relationship with her. And it's taken however long it's been. Like it's not like I was calling her while I was in Thorpe. Like she wasn't picking up my calls. My mom was. My mom, I'm lucky that my mom never, not that she didn't lose hope, but there were definitely some boundaries to be set with my mom, and we set those on pretty early on. But definitely the relationship that I have with my sister today is surprising, and I'm honestly it's like beyond words that I can even comprehend. Like she'll send me videos and pictures of my dad, and like she's willing enough to have conversations about my dad, or she'll call me when she's upset about my dad. Like that stuff for me, like that's cool, right? That's so cool. And it kind of gives me the extra push I need sometimes to make me realize I am doing the right thing and I am on the right path. So yeah, probably that. And then I would also say my relationship with myself, man, like that one's pretty cool. Just how much like I've grown in trusting my intuition, trusting my first thought, like having the discipline to know that if I want to go where I want to go, I need to be my biggest supporter, right? Because I'm easily my biggest critic sometimes, but also being my biggest supporter when like I could go out and get validation from other people, being like, no, John, like you're good, you're on the right path, you got this, instead of like hitting up an old thing to be like, oh my gosh, listen how good I'm doing. Like, you know what I mean? Like being able to do that for myself is is seems otherworldly.
What would you say to somebody who thinks recovery is like, pointless or fake?
Fake?
Yeah.
It's not fake. I'll tell you that much. It's definitely not fake. I mean, that's tough. That's tough because if you feel that way, I feel sorry for you. I truly do. Like, I feel very sorry for you because I just got shivers saying that. That's wild. But I feel so sorry for you because it's hard. Yeah. Like, it's the steps are simple, but it's not easy by any means. And it is difficult. It's a process, but to think that it's fake or, pointless, man, I pray for you, and I hope you can find it, like, in yourself or wherever, just to realize that, like, there are people that care about you, like, you are loved and you are worth it. And one of the big misconceptions, I think, or like that I've heard, is like, you need to do it for yourself, right? Like, oh, you can't do it for anyone else. And I kind of call bullshit on that because, I can do it for myself when I'm very motivated and I'm like, yeah, I got this, I can do this. But when I'm down and out and I'm having a rough day, man, like, I think about my mom and my sister. Like, I made that promise, like, I had that set point, I made that promise to myself, like, I will be a man there for my mom and sister, right? So, I think it's important to have those, like, set points, like, what I'm doing this for myself, yes, so I can be the best version of myself for them, but also, I don't think I would be there without them, if that makes any sense, So although I sometimes I think to myself, like, this is fake or this is pointless, that's when I can, kind of rewire my thinking and be like, okay, but why am I doing this? Like, have that why. Like, that's really important for me, at least. That I found, like, when I'm down and out, I'm having a rough day and I'm like, let's just blow this bitch up. I do think about my mom and my sister and, like, my good friends and, like, where I am at now, like, so that helps me a lot too.
What do people who have never struggled, with addiction get wrong about it every time?
Fuck, this one's hard, right? Because, I would say, like, that we don't care, right? Because now, like, me, my whole being is about caring, So I guess that one is like, or they're doing it in spite of them, right? Like, that, I think that would be a big one. Like, if I were to, like, loving an addict, like, they're doing what they're doing because of something I did, or, like, I could do something differently to change what they're doing. I think those two are, like, really, like, that I really wish I asked my sister this one before, because she would have some good answers. But yeah, probably that we don't care, but that, like, at the same time, I didn't care when I was in addiction, right? Like, I thought I cared, but I didn't. Now I care because I did something to change it. So, like, I could say I care, right? It's like that action word. But, I think as somebody who's not an addict and never struggled with it, probably, they're not, like, I'm not doing these things because of you. Like, it's not about you. It's about me. I don't give a shit about you. Like, I want the drugs because I want the drugs, not because I want to hurt you, right? It has nothing to do with you. It only has to do with me. Like, I'm self-centered. I'm selfish. I'm a prick, Yeah, it would probably be like that.
What would you want a skeptic, like, somebody who's unsure about recovery, to understand about the spiritual side of healing? Because, like, I asked this because I know for myself, when I got into the 12 steps, I was like, everybody's talking about God. What is this? Like, some kind of covert fucking,
Yeah.
Like, you're trying to sucker me into your religion,
Yeah. I mean, it's cool because it's like a God of your own understanding. So we're not even saying, like, oh, this guy's got a fucking gray beard and lives in the clouds or whatever the fuck, like, because that's not my perception. Um, somebody is a skeptic. Like, I was skeptical. Like, I was like, I remember the first meeting I walked to, I was like, this is a cult. I don't like this. I still don't like the Lord's Prayer at the end of the AA meeting. I find it weird. I don't know. But I do it because I'm open-minded. And, who knows? Like, shit. I didn't want to live how I was living anymore. I didn't want to have to steal. I didn't want to have to tell lies anymore. I just wanted to live and be okay with myself. And, if that was holding hands saying the Lord's Prayer, then fuck, I got to get through it. It's 30 seconds. I'll get through it. If that's, at the end of the night saying, God, thanks for helping me stay sober another day, or Creator, thank you for blessing me with another day sober, or, whatever it is. I just had to be open to the idea that it wasn't all about me. And that helped me a lot. God, people are going to hate me watching this. They're going to be like, fuck that guy.
I think that they'll relate to that.
No, I know, but if I heard that, I'd be like, fuck God.
So what thoughts still try to drag you backward, and how do you shut them down?
I still think about using, like, almost every day, probably, if I'm being honest. Like, like, the smell of it comes into my mind sometimes, like, ooh, that would be nice. Or like, I know we've kind of referenced picking up some chick at the bar, going on a bender. Like, that sounds pretty nice sometimes, but I would say playing that tape forward is like the most important thing. Like, yeah, it'll be great for 48 hours, but then my whole life is fucked after that, right? So just, I think playing the tape forward when I have those thoughts, like, what was the question again? What thoughts come into my mind?
What thoughts still try to drag you backward, and how do you shut them down?
Yeah, probably that, like, using would be a good idea. Like, I know I could go out to a bar and have one beer, but like after that, like, the next time I'm going to be like, I'm going to have 10, because my life didn't fall apart, but my life will fall apart very fucking quickly. And I can promise myself that, because it's happened before. Yeah, just like that I am able to enjoy substances without consequence. Like, that is something that I could convince myself very quickly, but I just play the tape forward. Like, how many times did I have just one? Like, I can remember one time in my life where I had one beer. And that was because I was severely ill. I went to a Wild Wing and I had one beer, and like, I could feel the flu coming on, and I went home and fell asleep. Like, that is the only time I can remember having just one. And like, sometimes that plays in my head. It's like, how many times did I actually have just one? Like, there was never a time where I finished a bag and I was like, oh, I don't want more. Like, that's not a fucking, that never happened to me. So, it's that addict brain. It'll always be there. And I think just, accepting the fact that I'm going to think about sniffing coke out of orifices sometimes will pass through my head, and just letting that be, right? Like, so, yeah. I mean, that's a little extreme, but that's what happens. Yeah.
What warning signs do you look for inside yourself now? And what is the biggest challenge for you at this stage of recovery?
First thing that came to mind when you said that, like, one is anger. I look for anger inside or like, when anger crops up, I know that, like, I need to just talk to someone, like call my sponsor, or just breathe, for fuck's sakes, because I didn't even know how to breathe before recovery. 7-Eleven breathing, box breathing. Box breathing, I feel like suffocate sometimes, like when I hold my breath. I don't. So 7-Eleven, 7 in, 11 out, that helps. What other signs? Like, when I'm happy, when stuff's going really, really good, that's when I need to catch it. I'm not like a sad, I'm alone, I want to use. I'm like a shit's going really good. I got a promotion at work. My stock portfolio is popping off. I'm doing good. Like, I'm doing good. I could use, like, nothing's going to go bad. Like, that's when I need to watch. So when things are going really well, I need to, like, calm myself down and realize, like keep an even keel, like understand, yeah, stuff's good, but you know, there's dips, there's valleys, right? So understanding like, yeah, stuff's going well, but it's not always going to be that way, and I need to be okay with it. That's one thing for sure. And then, sorry, the second question.
And, what's the biggest challenge for you at this stage?
Not wanting more right now. You know, I feel like I've made leaps and bounds in my recovery, but it's never enough, right? I have someone who's really close to me who said, "What's your addiction? Like, what are you addicted to? What's your DOC?" And he said, "More." Right? Like more of whatever. And it's like, yeah, I always want more. I always want more. But I think just being content. See, it's kind of like a double-edged sword for me. Like being content with where I am with the amount of work that I've put in, but also expecting more for myself with the more amount of work that I put in. Like not expecting more for myself without understanding what type of work that I need to put in to get there. You know, so like making sure that my goals are attainable and even sometimes not attainable, but understanding what the plan is to get there, like not just expecting this stuff to happen, right? And then also, you know, expectations, those are fucking scary things, right? Expectation is a preconceived resentment, I've heard before, which is that's a good saying, right? Because, you know, if I expect you to ask me whatever question I want you to ask me next, but I've never communicated that to you and you don't ask me that question, then I'm pissed off, right? So expectations are huge, and I need to definitely make sure that like if I do have an expectation of something or someone, that I make sure I communicate that with them so that we're on the same page.
Who are you today that your past self wouldn't recognize?
I don't know. That one's like the problem with me and addiction is I never thought that I was changed. Like that was kind of the crazy part of addiction is like, you know, I still had the underlying thoughts that I wasn't that bad, right? Until I now remove myself and look back, I'm like, whoa. Probably the honesty part. Like I think being rigorously honest is not easy, right? And I still catch myself sometimes, like in a white lie where I'm like, I don't want to tell them that. So I just kind of brush it over, or I omit something where like they ask me something, but I don't give the full truth. But I catch myself really quickly, and you know I try to make amends as quickly as I can. Probably the honesty part about everything, and definitely again the relationship thing, like fucking a year without a relationship or even like entertaining a nude photo, like I don't even do that. That's wild. That's crazy to me that I've been able to stick to that. So probably those two things.
What are you most proud of in the man you're becoming?
Probably just that, like that I'm becoming a man. You know, when I think of, you know, a man, I think of somebody who's honest, you know, intelligent, accountable, dependable, hardworking, and honest. Like again, I know I said it twice, but you know, to become those things is it's I can't rest on my laurels. It's doing it daily, right? Like there's no days off on being honest. There's no days off on being accountable. There's no days off on being dependable, right? Like I know, for instance, my best friend, he calls me anytime. I'm picking up that phone and I'll be there. You know, like, oh, his wife needs to be rushed to the hospital. Cool, I'll be at your house in 20 minutes. It's 2:30 in the morning. You know, I'm happy that I get to, like, I'm proud. I'm proud of myself that I'm becoming that guy. You know, oh, John will pick up his phone. Oh, John will be there. He says he's gonna be there. He'll be there at that time. Like, no, like, oh, I'm gonna be half an hour late because like that's not a thing, man. Like for me, it's not. I try not to make that a thing. If I say I'm going to be there, I'll be there. Like no excuses, right? So And part of that is because that's the way my dad was. Like, that's the way my father was, right? So I think I would be proud that, you know, some of the best parts of him are living on through me.
Do you have any promises that you're making to yourself for the next year?
Yeah, a couple probably. I mean, it's crazy. So like when I got out of Thorpe, I did a vision board. A couple of those things on there, like I wanted to be financially responsible, not wasting money on food. Cause like I love fucking eating out. I love ice cream and shit like that. And then underneath that was, you know, get down to 195 pounds. And I hit that one. That one was tough. I started at like 245 when I came into the house. You saw me. Like I look different now, and I'm proud of that. But anyways, I made a vision board with a bunch of these things. Become a better builder. You know, become you know, a knowledgeable, calculated, trustworthy man. That was on my vision board, right? So I think for my next vision board, it's like there's some financial goals that I have, and I tend to set those a little bit higher than maybe even plausible, but I do that because, you know, on my way there I can still enjoy it. Like if I set a goal that I know I'm going to attain, it's like I'm not enjoying the process of getting there, right? Like I think a lot of the joy for me now I'm finding in the process of doing these things, which is very important to me, because I know that like when I've set goals before and I get there, I'm like, well, like this is it, and I'm like disappointed, and then I don't want to do the next goal. So if I set a goal that's a little bit above like what I'm able to attain, you know, I try to enjoy the process of getting there. So it's kind of like, I would say, find joy in the process of attaining my goals, right? My goals can be what I want them to be or whatever they may be, but like my biggest goal is to like ensure that I enjoy where I'm going with the goals that I've set. Like enjoy that discipline, enjoy, you know, I thought I was a good swimmer. I'm not a good swimmer, like at all. Like at all. And, you know, I've made a commitment now to start swimming twice a week. And, you know, like enjoy almost drowning in a pool. Like that's not something that's like you could say you enjoy, but like enjoying the process because I know it's going to take me to where I need to go. I think that's a huge part of like my goal of the next year is like enjoying the shit, right? For lack of better terms.
Yeah. No, and that all translates very well into like recovery shit as well.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
It's not always fun, but like if you enjoy it and like I know we spoke about this, right? The fact that we even have an opportunity to get into recovery and like people are there to support us, like do you know how many fucking countries don't have any support whatsoever? Like even if they wanted to ask for help, an addict couldn't ask for help. So like how entitled am I as an addict to not ask for help because my ego or pride's too big, when there's people out there who are addicts who wish they could ask for help but can't? That's crazy to me. I think we were at a meeting, like one of our group meetings, when we like went through that and understanding that, right?
Well, that was a big moment for me.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, and speaking of that, like this question isn't on here, but to you, for your recovery and your own personal philosophy for others, what's the importance of the process of detox, treatment, sober living?
Yeah, detox is important for me. Like I'd been sober for 25 days when I got into Thorpe's detox, but I'd also done a stay at Alberta Hospital's detox before that because I thought it would help me get into Thorpe quicker, which it didn't. I don't know. Detox kind of gave me like a different view of other people, what they're going through too, right? Like it's, you know, some people are hooked up to IVs, some people aren't, some people need different meds, some people can't sleep, some people sleep the whole time. So it kind of gave me like everyone's different, but also we're all the same. Like we're all wearing the same pajamas. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I took from detox. Treatment, geez, very important to me. You know, I was I was very dedicated when I was in treatment. You know, I did everything that I was asked to work on, and I did it with vigor. Like I made sure that you know, like I made sure that everything that I was writing down was really what I wanted to say or like how I felt. I didn't hide my emotions when I was wanted to cry. Like I cried in group, you know, like when I was having a bad day, like I'm having a shit day, which didn't happen that often. Like I was so happy when I got into treatment. Like I was, because I was walking like 8 kilometers a day, like to a meeting, 4 kilometers to a meeting, then to the library, and then back to a meeting, back to my house in like negative 25-degree weather in Edmonton before I got not even a house, like in an unfinished basement. But anyways, besides the point. I was just really excited to be there, and it was important for me because, you know, some of these things I never really looked at before, even if I was kind of skeptical about opening up about them, because I was like, if people know that about me, like I'm never gonna nobody's ever gonna love me again. Like it was important that I explored those things and spoke about them with the people that were at Thorpe because I trusted them, right? And even if, you know, trust is a big word, but I just trusted the process that getting it out there would help me. It's not so much about trusting the person I'm talking to, but it was about, or the people that are listening, because that wasn't always the case, but it was trusting that I had to get it out. So it didn't matter about who is listening or who is there. It was about me. Like I was being selfish about the fact that if I was there, I was going to get the absolute utmost out of it that I possibly could because I deserved it. And the funny part about sober living is when it was suggested to me to go into sober living, I was talking to a friend. We were sitting down in the east dining room. We were doing some homework, and I was like, "Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with sober living. Like, you know, that would help my mom trust me a lot more." She goes, "That sounds manipulative." I was like, "Oh shit!" Like that was. And then I went in and saw and spoke to Rhonda, and I got all the applications in, and I was lucky enough to get into Hope in Strathcona in Sherwood Park, and I didn't realize how important it was for my recovery because even though I thought I had it made after Thorpe and I'm recovered, it gave me the grace of being surrounded by other addicts and the ability to open up and be vulnerable with other men when if I had just moved into an apartment, like I wouldn't have had that experience, right? And it also gave me, you know, connections that helped me. Like my first job out of treatment, I was shoveling at like like midnight to 6 a.m. And I got that job through Justin, who was, you know, one of the guys that helps run Hope in Strathcona. You know, and also like being new in recovery out of treatment, like you're kind of, or I was kind of like I needed to have like those big brothers with me that I could lean on sometimes. Like I felt more comfortable going into a meeting with somebody that I knew, right? Like that was cool. You know, and then at Hope in Strathcona, we have, you know, those two men's meetings, Wednesday, Thursday, and that's kind of like, those are like my safe places, right? Like those are like my sounding boards. Like they're I can't really explain how special those have been for me, right? Because although like going to a meeting's great, I've really found myself in the Wednesday and Thursday night meetings, and yeah, I mean, sober living for me is great. Like I have lots of friends who are normies, right? So they don't always get it. So being able to go home to something that's like everyone there understands. Like if I'm having a bad day, I'm like, I'm not going to work. I'm having a bad day. They're not like, well, fuck, you got it. They're like, oh, can I help? You know, what can I do? It's just, it's a sweet setup, man. And I wouldn't change it for the world.
If someone is watching this who is struggling right now, what would you want them to hear?
if you are struggling, still using or in treatment, feel like leaving treatment, I've been there, you know. I've been right there. Can't say I've felt exactly what you're feeling, but I know what I felt was, you know, some sick feeling like in my stomach, chest, that it'll never get better. That I need to go back to that way. I don't know what's going to happen here. I'm scared. You know, I'm unsure. Fuck these people. You know, I get it. And the only thing I can say is that you can find it in yourself to just, you know, whether it's 30 seconds, a minute, you know, you can get through that minute, you can get through that 5 minutes, and it will get better. That, you know, that feeling will subside. And I can promise you, for those ones that are strong enough and willing enough to wait that 30 seconds, that minute, 5 minutes for that feeling of, you know, I have to go back to that person, I have to go back to that life, it won't get better. I can promise you, if you can stay and stick through it, it will get better. And those that do will understand what I'm saying, you know, a couple months from now, a couple days from now, whatever it may be. But, you know, you do have the opportunity to find yourself, you know, find joy, find your happiness, you know, find faith if that's what you're looking for. You know, just, it's so worth it. It's so worth it just to stick it through. And I know it's hard. I know it feels like you're losing everything. Because that's what I felt. I felt like, you know, losing my significant other, losing my drug. I felt like I was losing everything and it would never be okay. And, you know, these people will never forgive me, so why even bother? But I'm here to tell you, you know, sometimes those people won't forgive you, and that's okay, because, you know, better ones are coming, and, you know, better things are coming than what you've known, what I've known. Better things came from me than what I've ever known. You know, and I just really hope for you that you just wait it out. Give it that 30 seconds, give it that minute before you cave, because it does get better.
Anything else that you want to say about yourself or recovery in general that you can think of?
You know, like we spoke about this the other night, and it was kind of that, oh, I hate my addict self. Oh, I hate addiction. Oh, fuck addiction. Like, and having this huge resentment towards your addict self or your addiction. And like, for me, I'm at the point now where that's such a waste of energy for me. Like, I find, to like have any hate towards who I was, because be all end all, like, although I could say, yeah, it was my addict self, like, it was still me, man. Like, there was still little bits of sobriety where I was like, yeah, I need to pick up, right? So for me to hate that is almost giving power to it. I think it's kind of along the lines of what we said. And, you know, I wouldn't know life right now if I wasn't, like, grateful a little bit for having to go through those hardships, right? Like, I grew up very entitled. Like, if I didn't have my way, it was trouble, right? Like, I was entitled, and I didn't know what it was like to have to work to get things on my own without having to lose everything first. And I only lost all that because of addiction. So in a way, like, I'm grateful for my addiction. And I know that could sound pretty crazy, but, you know, I don't have that energy to hate it anymore. Like, I know it's right there. Like, it's chilling right here, and it's like saying, good job, John. Like, keep going. But, like, same idea is, like, it's still right fucking there. It's never going to leave me, right? And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm at peace with that. Like, chill. Come on. Hang out. Like, whatever. But we're never going to indulge again. But, like, for me, coming to terms and, like, being okay with being an addict has been probably the most powerful thing, instead of, like, hating, because, like, for me to hate the addict in myself is for me to like hate myself. Like that's just who I am. It is. Whatever. I got dealt a shit hand. Add it to the fucking list, bro. You know, like I'm okay with it. And I think that's been like one of the most powerful parts of my recovery is just recently being like, you know, is what it is. And you know, like I can't hate it. I can't hate myself anymore. I've done enough hating on myself, right? So just the acceptance of it and being able to, you know, move along in whatever capacity, and accepting it, I think is probably like the one thing that I would say. Yeah. Sweet. Thanks, man.